I'm fucking back. October 28th was the day in which Pac-Man Geo had been put out to pasture, and all I have to say to that is good riddance. Yeah, I got some things to say about this particular game, and most of them are not nice. It is, or more so was, a complete dumpster fire of a game, ranking among some of the worst the series has to offer, even going beyond most of those games. You could make the argument that it is a mobile game and that I shouldn't expect too much from it, but there have been mobile games in the past that were way better. And even by mobile game standards, there is no reason for this game to have been as repugnant as it was. Well, it's been shut down, so I guess it's literally nothing to worry about as I speak, but that's not gonna stop me from shitting on its grave. Let me start off by saying that not only was the game horribly executed, but conceptually it was plagued. The idea for this game was based off of an April Fool's prank involving Google Maps. And just like a hypothetical top 10 hottest Pac-Man characters list, such a thing should only be kept as an April Fool's joke. When deciding to turn this into a game, they were way too focused on if they could, that they never stopped and wondered if they should. They would eventually figure out the latter, albeit a bit too late. So, the main gimmick behind the game is that you can take random streets on Google Maps and turn them into Pac-Man mazes. The immediate problem here is that these streets do not make for good mazes at all. At best, they're boring as hell. At worst, they can be clunky, obtuse, and overall egregious. With these levels being practically auto-generated, this leads to certain nuances being thrown out the window, and some design sins that go against that of a Pac-Man maze game. Stuff like warp tunnels that feel unnatural, clunky, and warp you into unpredictable spots, and dead ends. Dead fucking ends. It's kind of an unspoken rule that you don't put fucking dead ends in a Pac-Man maze. Pac-Man mazes are designed to be free-flowing in a way that gives players ample opportunity to avoid ghosts as much as humanly possible. Given how this is a playstyle that requires constant movement, stuff like dead ends heavily go against this type of design and are quite unintuitive. Despite how great of a game Pac-Man World is, its maze minigames aren't exactly looked upon fondly for these reasons. But in the defense of those maze sections, at the very least, the health bar and lives from the main game are carried over to these sections, so you can still beat them, though that is also creating a solution by inventing another problem. But that's neither here nor there. But what is here is a game with a gimmick that not only guarantees bad design, but also makes the already bad controls even worse. Movement can already feel pretty sluggish, but then you weigh in the clunky maze design, and it ends up being, well, a complete mess. But when you think it can't get any worse, they also add in the slowdown feature. This was a mechanic in Championship Edition DX where anytime you're close to a ghost, the game slows down so you can react accordingly. This is done to compensate for the game's fast pace, so that it wouldn't be too hard for most players. So then I have to ask, why the fuck did they put it here? It already makes a pretty slow game even slower and makes playing it feel like a drag. It's just an out-of-place mechanic. So yeah, it has a bad gimmick, feels bad to play, and is overall not very fun. Even as a time waster, it wasn't worth it. If there is one positive thing I can say, it's that the music isn't horrible. Though the title screen song is pretty repetitive and generic, but there's a welcoming vibe to it. I do like the results screen music. There's somewhat of a nostalgic feel to it. I can't quite put my finger on it. So yeah, it's not hard to see why this ended up getting shut down. That said, if you liked this game, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If anything, I feel sorry for you that a game you really like isn't playable anymore. No game, no matter how bad, deserves to become lost to media. As a whole though, this situation is quite telling of the current state of affairs. Yep, this is yet another pretentious discussion about the current state of Pac-Man. But yeah, in general, when the past 7 years of the series mostly consisted of mediocre mobile titles that end up becoming unplayable, mediocre games on services nobody likes, and the most notable game as of recent being yet another recontextualization of the original Maze game, then there is somewhat of a problem. Ironically enough, I do quite like 99, but it doesn't really have that much staying power otherwise. Putting 99 aside, I just don't get how some can say that the current state of the series is perfectly fine, especially when Bamco teases events that never even happen. If you are fine with where the series is currently at, that is perfectly understandable, but there is absolutely no reason to get so fucking angsty over other people criticizing it, resorting to petty antagonistic insults. All that aside, it feels like Bamco only keeps the series around for the sake of merchandising, marketing, and cynical nostalgia pandering. Like, gosh darn Bamco, NFTs? Really? I know everyone and their mom hates this shit, myself included, but for Pac-Man fans specifically, this shit is just a slap in the face. But in the case of these mobile games, I can't help but feel this side of the franchise especially isn't doing too well. Some of these games weren't even that bad. Like, almost being okay if anything. Some of them even contain callbacks to games that came out when the series was actually doing shit.
Oh, I bet you only have a problem with nostalgia pandering when your nostalgia isn't being catered to, huh?
Hey! Shut the heck up, will ya? I'll address that sentiment some other time. The last thing I ever wanted to do is be cynical, but I just gotta call these things out, man. My issue isn't that they aren't doing anything with Pac-Man World. My issue is that they aren't doing anything with the world of Pac-Man. But a new Pac-Man World would be really nice, though. Not gonna deny that. With all that said, until next time, I'll see you all later.